Close to 101 nuts for Tuli.
Nuts.
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 Oh, nuts, nuts.
Chock full of nuts.
Handful of nuts.
Beer nuts.
Hookah nuts.
Lug nuts.
Soap nuts.
Gum nuts.
Wing nuts.
Chocolate nuts.
Bulk nuts.
DJ nuts.
Falling nuts.
Let's go nuts. Let's go nuts. Let's go nuts.
Nuts online.
My congressmansnuts.com.
Soup to nuts.
You'd be nuts to skip the nuts.
I thought I loved nuts.
My husband loves nuts.
Try my husband's nuts.
Gourmet nuts since 1946.
I am nuts above him.
Crack my nuts.
Nuts and balls.
No, not your balls.
Are you off your nut?
Try my nuts.
Shoot a squirrel and collect nuts to move on to the next level.
But there is a man behind the nut.
Nuts, the movie?
Starring Barbara Streisand and Richard Dreyfuss.
Confucius say, man who stick pennies in peanut butter jar is fucking nuts. Un poème à la noix, oui. Download the latest nuts for Windows version for registered users only.
Nuts manual in PDF format contains complete description of all.
Nutcase, a term describing a person who has totally lost their grip on reality. Such people are mainly from the right wing of the political spectrum and are often politicians and religious extremists. Nutcase could describe the following people: Rush Limbaugh,
Nuts.
Dick Cheney,
Nuts.
Osama Bin Laden,
Nuts.
Sarah Palin,
Nuts.
Christine O'Donnell,
Nuts.
Glenn Beck.
Nuts. Tom Cruise is nuts too.
The early shows Dr. Emily Senay explains not all nuts are created equal.
Back to healthy nuts.
3 years after the USDA destroyed the US raw almond business by forcing almond producers to fumigate and pasteurize their nuts,
Squirrel versus snake. Squirrel goes nuts.
truck nuts, truck accessories, bumper nuts, nuts, motorcycle and car nuts, big balls nuts, auto, SUV nuts, ATV nuts, testicles, Jeep, Harley Davidson nuts, RV nuts, testicles, gonads, monster prank, racing nuts.
Peanut equals ground nuts equals monkey nut equals goober pea.
These aren't really nuts, but legumes that grow underground.
Sir, nuts. Stop. Skip content. Skip to content.
The nuts NUTS classification is a hierarchical system for dividing up the economic territory of the EU.
Nut wizard is a tool used to pick up nuts, acorns, fruits, and sweet gum balls from your yard.
Nuts, the highest possible hand in poker.
Body part that a lot of famous people grab on stage. Hey Bob, is that guy squeezing his nuts?
In Bastogne, General Anthony McAuliffe responded to the Germans' order to surrender with one-word reply: nuts! See the Battle of the Bulge. In Egyptian mythology, there is a goddess called Nut, or Nut in early Egyptian pronunciation. She certainly was there to welcome Tuli.
Nut regulates the night. Nut gives birth to the sun and swallows him every night. Oh, truly may you rest with Nut, the goddess of the sky. Nut will refresh you with nuts and wine. Oh, Tuli, Tuli, happy birthday to you.
So Tuli goes, Jews got their name in different ways. Part of the time, they had to buy a name. And Steve said, what are you talking about? Well, Tuli said, listen, in my shtetl, my name would have been Naphtali ben Lemuel. Tuli Naphtali, the son of Lemuel. There are a lot of names like that, like David, son of Jacob. So when the tax collector would come and say, hey, did you pay your taxes? The Jew would say, yeah, look under David, the son of Joseph, the son of David. So they'd look at the roll, and there'd be 45 of them. So the tax collectors got wise. The Jews had to get last names, and you have to pay for your last name. So, you know, Goldberg costs a lot more than kupferberg. Because Goldberg is gold mountain and kupferberg is copper mountain. I mean, what can I say? My family was cheap. And Steve was asking me, he said, well, did you get bar mitzvah? He says, well, there's a conservative synagogue to which my father had close connections. I went there to prepare for the confirmation where you study Hebrew, you study Jewish history. The teacher was the wife of the rabbi. I remember only that she had 2 teeth, which I thought was really disgusting. Of course, now I only have 2 teeth, so makes you a little more understanding. So we're discussing how the Jews crossed the Red Sea to get from Egypt to Israel. And the teacher says, well, how did you Jews cross the sea? And I said, well, maybe it was very dry and they just walked across. She slapped me in the face and I never went back and I was never bar mitzvah. Last thing. So Steve, this is Steve talking. He said, you know, because they're talking about the old days in Brooklyn. You know, because Tuli all the time in Brooklyn. You know, it was interesting, Steve said, what you were saying about the ragmen. We still had ragmen in the end of the 50s when I was growing up. It was always a big deal for me to hear them every day. But as I was telling Yuko, I thought they were saying, I kick coke, I kick coke. I guess they're speaking Yiddish, but I don't know what they were saying. Tuli goes, yeah, they might have been saying, I pick rags, I pick rags. It's a wonderful thing. And you know, the musicians, Tuli said, would come and play in the yards of the tenements, even in Brooklyn. Sometimes a complete German band, they'd be playing something like My Yiddish Mama. And the tenant would wrap a coin in a newspaper and throw it down from his apartment. And Steve said, yeah, well, when back in the days when the seltzer guy would leave, he'd leave the seltzer in the hall back in the 50s. It's still the same thing. My parents would drop the money, wrap it up, and they tell him to leave it in the hall and drop down the money. And Tuli said, yeah, oh my God, throwing money around. Those were the days.
1,001 ways to make love. With the left leg over the right shoulder. With the right leg over the left shoulder. With the right ass, and right ass is right. With the right ass over the left leg. With a toe or tit in the mouth or ear. With the right cock in the left cunt. With the right, why isn't anyone laughing? With the right paw over the left shoulder. With a tail wrapped around the flagpole. With balloons. With the brass band playing. With a knight in shining armor. Take off the cutlass first. With a visitor from a small planet. With M&Ms. Oh, those double chocolates. In kilts, out of kilts. Without panties, without a brassiere. Without deodorant. As a free-form painting. Without detriment of clergy. With need. I'm going to repeat that. With need, with need, with need. With desire. Like a team of wild horses. With a team of wild horses. As an off Broadway play. With a friend. With someone you just met. With someone you always wanted to do it with someone you never wanted to do it with an old enemy, with someone everyone hates, with a tyrant, with a bad boy. Now, I've done that more than once. On a flying trapeze, with a mouthful of trees. Maybe try those two together. With a sad person, with a happy person, with a non-person, with someone who wants it very badly, with someone who doesn't care, with your whole body and soul. Tuli is simply one of the sexiest men that I have ever met, and I hope that this inspires everyone here to go home and make love. Because, you know, Tuli is watching us and he's saying, yeah, baby, go, go, go.